Imagine a fighter who looks like an average office worker, stepping into a cage against a heavily muscled giant and destroying him in seconds. Why is it that Japanese athletes, despite being smaller and physically disadvantaged, completely dominate world combat sports from judo and wrestling to the UFC? The secret isn't in their genetics. It lies in a lethal combination of hidden biomechanics, a deeply communal team culture that replaces individual hunger, and a samurai mindset that treats suffering as a spiritual awakening. Today, we decode the invisible strength of the ultimate underdogs. Let's dive in. Section 1, the invisible killers. Look at Japanese fighters. Look at their size. Would you fear a Japanese athlete in a real fight? Probably not. In the West, we often judge a fighter by their muscles. We look for broad shoulders, thick necks, and an intimidating stare. But in Japan, the most dangerous Japanese fighters look completely ordinary. They look like school teachers. They look like office workers. Japanese martial artists are often thin, quiet, and polite. Yet, if you step on the mats with a Japanese fighter, it is over in seconds. Bang! You are on the floor and you cannot breathe. It is a terrifying experience. Many foreign fighters visit Japan and share the same story. They thought it would be an easy win against a Japanese opponent. They were completely wrong. Why does true strength hide itself in Japan? Why do the deadliest Japanese warriors look so non-threatening? This is the unique paradox of Japanese combat sports. In this country, you cannot trust your eyes. What about you? Have you ever underestimated a Japanese person who looked weak, only to find out they were incredibly dangerous? Tell me your story in the comments below. Section 2. The cultural blueprint. Bushido and the social fabric of Kata. To understand Japanese strength, we must look deeper than the gym. We must look at culture. In Japan, martial arts are not just about winning a trophy. They are about building human character. This mindset comes directly from the ancient samurai, who followed the strict code of Bushido. For a Japanese fighter, technique is deeply tied to respect, discipline, and emotional control. This philosophy is perfectly captured in a single word, kata. In English, kata translates to form, or a specific pattern of movement. But to a Japanese martial artist, kata is much more than that. It is a strict boundary. It is a beautiful frame. From childhood, Japanese athletes practice the exact same movements, thousands of times. They repeat the basic form until their conscious mind shuts off. In the West, sports often celebrate individual freedom, raw creativity, and loud self-expression. Japan takes the opposite path. Japanese culture teaches you to empty your ego, follow the rules perfectly, and find deep freedom within those strict boundaries. This creates a terrifying focus. When a Japanese fighter enters the cage, they do not carry anger. They do not carry arrogance. They only carry a calm, empty, and lethal mind. Section 3. Beyond hunger. The power of the family-style team trust. In the West, we love the story of the lone wolf. We celebrate the hungry fighter who comes from a poor background, fights the whole world, and wins millions of dollars alone. We think that deep personal hunger is the only way to reach the absolute top. But Japan rewires this concept entirely. Japanese fighters are not driven by individual greed or lonely hunger. Instead, Japanese culture harnesses a much more powerful energy, the absolute devotion to the team. In a Japanese gym, the connection between a fighter, their coach, and their training partners is not a business contract. It is a family bond. They live together, bleed together, and share the exact same soul. When a Japanese athlete steps into the cage, they do not fight for their own glory or a massive paycheck. They carry the dreams, the honor, and the heavy emotions of their entire team. You can see this deep truth during their walkouts. Look closely at the faces of the Japanese cornermen. They are not hyping themselves up with loud screams or fake anger. They share a quiet, burning intensity. Every single person in that small circle is deeply connected by ultimate trust. This collective energy makes a Japanese fighter nearly impossible to break. They are never fighting alone. Section 4. Shokunin mentality, mastering perfection within strict boundaries. Have you ever heard of the word shokunin? In English, it means a craftsman or a master artisan. A Japanese shokunin will spend 50 years perfecting a single knife, or making the exact same sushi rice every single day. They do not want to make 1,000 different products. They want to make one single thing flawlessly. This exact mindset defines Japanese combat sports. Japanese athletes do not focus on dynamic, flashy knockouts or chaotic brawls. Instead, they apply a laser-focused, obsessive discipline to the tiny mechanics of a single technique. They will practice a basic double leg, takedown, or an armbar tens of thousands of times. They study the micro angles of their own hips. They measure the exact centimeter of their foot placement. They work perfectly within their specific weight limits. While Western fighters often rely on explosive athleticism, changing their strategy with raw instinct, Japanese fighters act like master engineers. They build a flawless system of micro-habits. They find an incredible ultimate freedom by completely surrendering to these strict structural boundaries. When you fight a Japanese athlete, you are not just fighting a human being. You are fighting decades of obsessive, relentless perfection. Section 6. The wrestling phenomenon. Japan's secret grassroots machine. Look at the Olympic medal tables. Year after year, Japan completely dominates the sport of wrestling. Western audiences are often shocked. They ask, how can a nation with a smaller average population size beat giant powerhouse countries like Russia or the United States? The answer is a hidden, hyper-organized, grassroots machine. In the West, kids often switch between different sports every season. They play football, then basketball, then baseball. But in Japan, specialized training starts in early childhood, and it never stops. Japanese schools and universities have an incredibly intense system called bukatsu, or club activities. If a Japanese child chooses wrestling, they do not just practice twice a week. They train for multiple hours every single day, all year round. They build an unbelievable base of physical conditioning, flexibility, and spatial awareness before they even become adults. By the time a Japanese wrestler enters an international tournament, they have accumulated thousands of hours of elite-level mat time. It is a national assembly line for world champions. Why do you think Western countries struggle to replicate this deep, lifelong dedication to a single sport? Is it a difference in culture or a difference in the school system? Share your thoughts below. Section 7. The real-world crucible, embracing the cruel truth of asymmetry. Modern education often tells us a beautiful lie. It says that everyone is born perfectly equal. It says that the world is always fair and that competition is inherently toxic. Schools remove grades and they refuse to name a winner. But Japanese combat sports completely reject this soft reality. When you step onto a Japanese mat, you enter a brutal, real-world crucible. You learn a harsh foundational truth immediately. Life is inherently asymmetrical. In a Japanese dojo, you quickly discover that some people are naturally faster, bigger, and stronger than you. No matter how hard you train, there will always be an opponent who can pin you effortlessly. There are no safe spaces here. There are no participation trophies. By facing this absolute crushing reality every single day, Japanese fighters develop a rare, unshakable mental toughness. They do not complain about an unfair matchup. They do not cry about a physical disadvantage. They look at the giant in front of them, accept the brutal truth of the situation, and immediately look for a way to win anyway. This deep psychological resilience is their greatest shield. They are comfortable surviving inside the cruel, asymmetric reality of a real fight. Section 8. Zen and the Art of Weight, cutting the spiritual awakening of suffering. To most Western fighters, weight cutting is a miserable chore. It is a scientific, painful math problem of losing water and sweat. They hate it. They complain about it, and they just want it to be over. But for a Japanese fighter, extreme weight cutting is transformed into something deeply spiritual. It is approached almost like a Zen ritual. When you strip away 15 or 20 pounds from a smaller body, something fascinating happens to the human mind. The hunger and the thirst begin to clear away. The background noise of modern life. Your focus sharpens like a razor blade. The world looks completely different. Japanese martial artists describe this extreme state not as pure suffering, but as a deep psychological awakening. Every color looks brighter. Every sound becomes crisp. By pushing their bodies to the absolute edge of survival, Japanese athletes enter a hyper-focused meditative state. They learn to be perfectly comfortable inside extreme discomfort. While a Western opponent might feel emotionally drained and angry from the brutal weight cut, the Japanese fighter steps onto the scale with a calm, clear, and perfectly sharpened spirit. They have already conquered their own flesh. Section 9. The contrast of respect. Why true violence doesn't need to loudly bark. In modern combat sports, trash talk is a massive business. Western promotions love athletes who scream into microphones, insult their opponents, and create cheap drama. They wear expensive clothes, flip each other off, and flash millions of dollars. To them, loud aggression is the ultimate sign of confidence. But Japan presents a completely different picture of power. Look at the greatest Japanese champions like Naoya Inoue. They do not bark. They do not insult your family. They do not try to look like gangsters. They walk into the arena with a deep bow. They shake hands with ultimate respect. They treat their opponent not as an enemy to hate, but as a mirror to test their own soul. This polite behavior is not a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate sign of terrifying certainty. When a person is truly dangerous, they do not need to convince you with loud words. They save all their violent energy for the exact moment the clock starts. This quiet humility completely confuses many foreign fighters. They expect a wild beast, but instead they meet a silent, polite technician. By the time they realize the danger, they are already staring at the ceiling. Section 10. Conclusion: the ultimate paradox of modern warriors. So why is a small nation with physically smaller athletes so terrifyingly strong? As we have seen, the secret of Japanese combat sports has nothing to do with muscle mass or raw physical genetics. Instead, Japan has done something far more brilliant. They have weaponized their own culture. They have taken the ancient discipline of Bushido and wrapped it inside the strict boundaries of Kata. They replaced the lonely, volatile hunger of the individual with the unstoppable collective energy of a family-like team. They turned the scientific, painful chore of weight, cutting into a quiet spiritual awakening. And they rejected the soft lies of modern education, choosing instead to embrace the cruel, asymmetric truths of the mat. Japanese fighters prove that true violence does not need to bark, and true power does not need to look intimidating. They are the ultimate master craftsmen of human conflict. The next time you see a thin, polite, and quiet Japanese athlete step into a cage or onto a mat, do not let your eyes deceive you. You are not looking at an ordinary human being. You are looking at a modern warrior who has completely redefined the very meaning of strength.